This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, everyone, welcome back. B'ez Hashem. I was already giving the webinar on a different place, and I said if anyone could chat me to make sure that I'm in the right place, and nobody answered. Then I looked, and nobody's there. So now you hear me. You didn't see me. I was talking. I was in a different room. I'm happy to be back. Welcome back. And it's back, but we're only starting. So, B'ez Hashem, this is the effective discipline webinar for difficult children. Allow me to explain what this means. And before I do, I will say a short tefillah that this webinar be matzliach in the most successful way. So, Rabbi Steinman, until now we gave a webinar, effective discipline. That's it. Period. Nothing additional. Now we're giving a webinar, effective discipline for difficult children. What's the difference? We like to categorize children into two different categories. Number one, children that accept your assertiveness and your authority, and children that don't. Those are the two categories of children. So for all practical purposes, the children we spoke about in the previous webinar were the latter, children that accept assertiveness and accept authority. Please understand, today in this generation, even if you exercise your authority and even if you'll be assertive, it has to be done in a different way. It can't be done in the way it was done. But even so, and you'll adjust and you'll do it differently, there are children that are allergic to it, will not accept it, especially nowadays. And that's who this webinar is for. Those children that when you tell them, do this, do that, they say no. And when I don't want, no, I'm not, they just ignore you and don't even pay attention to you. And you, but I said something, I don't care. I'm doing what I want, I don't want. They don't accept a no, they don't accept a yes, they do what they want to do. And that's why they do it. So the assertive children, the authority children, we call them the accepting children. If you'll push it, they'll accept it. At the end of the day, it may not be easy, but once you do it, they'll accept it. That's what we spoke about in the previous webinar. That's the first category of children. Now we're talking about the other types of children, the fighting children, we call them. We said difficult children. We mean fighting children, children that will defy your authority. They will stand up to you and fight you, and the more you'll try to be assertive, and the more you'll push your authority, the more they will stand their ground, dig their heels in, and fight back. And that's who we're talking about today. Now, there are different types. There are, number one, the types of children that are just breathing the air that exists in this generation. It's the spirit of chutzpah that we've seen today that is in our generation that is nothing like has ever been seen until now. Bikvus, the Meshicha chutzpah yaski, the chutzpah is so widespread and all over the place. That's one reason a child will be difficult. And then there are children that were born with difficult midos. Then they are difficult upon difficult because they have the attitude of the generation as well as having difficulties in any generation. They're born with short fuses. They're low frustration tolerance, they're rough and gruff and self-centered and powerful steamrollers, controlling, independent type kids. They're all kinds. We're going to lump everyone into one category and call them difficult children. For our purposes here in this webinar, we're going to call them fighting children. So Rabbi Steinman, we're dealing with fighting children, and we're going to learn how to discipline them. Now, who says we should discipline them? For anything. Maybe we should leave them alone. Maybe we should just get along with them, be nice to them, give in to them, and forge a relationship with them. Who said we need to discipline at all? Now you have a point, but there was a big series in the Mishpacha magazine a few years back. It was called Hefkerwelt, and it was a big debate between two very big mechanchim. Should you just let kids off the derech alone? Should you be mekarev them? What should we do? How should we work with it? I see that there are, some people are having technical issues, but I am being heard by many of you. So I hope as many of you can hear me as you can. For those of you that don't hear on the webinar, perhaps you can go to the audio. I will ask the administrator to put on the information just so you can go to the audio and be able to hear on the audio, which you can dial into just in case you can't hear on the webinar. Soon you'll get that information. Hopefully, bear with us. Look at your chat if anyone can put up that information. Yes, so why should you discipline your teen? Maybe a relationship is the most important thing. Now, I do clarify, we're not talking about kids off the derech. Kids off the derech have a different set of rules and require a different approach. We're talking about kids on the derech, and we don't want them to go off the derech. So is it just about playing up to them? Is it just about spoiling them? Is it just about giving in to them and doing whatever they want? Now you have on the chat, just for a moment, you can look, you can see the information to call into. If you can't see the information, if you can't see me on the webinar, I am live and I am being heard by many of you. So, Rabbi Sai, kids going off the derech, no, kids on the derech, should they be disciplined? The Chazon Ish says that there are many midos, many good midos and many not good midos. Says the Chazon Ish, they all come from one good midah and one not good midah. The one good midah, says the Chazon Ish, is to do what's right, not what you feel like. And that's the opposite of the fighting child. Because the fighting child does what he feels like and not what's right. And so, Rabbi Sai, that is the one good midah, which is the source of all the good midas. So do we want the fighting children not to have the one good midah, which will bring them to all the good midas? Do we want them to turn out rotten and do whatever they want and not have the strength to say no to themselves? And who knows where that will take them all their lives? Don't they need discipline just as much as everybody else? Don't they need good midas? We're talking about for kids up to about the age of 15, if you're asking. We're not talking about older children from 15 and up. We're talking about younger children from about 5 to 15, if you're asking me. So, getting back to the Chazon Ish. So the Chazon Ish says that's the one good midah which brings to all the good midas. Do we want that our fighting children should not have this one good midah? Is that what we're looking for? Don't they deserve also to have the one good midah? And do we want them to have bad midas all their lives just because they're difficult people to deal with? Just because we don't have tools to use? That's why we're giving this webinar, to give you the tools to help your children, the difficult children, to become disciplined. Now, will discipline get them to become disciplined? Not necessarily. We're going to learn how to get them to become disciplined, but understand, not leaving your children, your fighting children, to their own devices, backing off, doing nothing, giving in to them, and letting them do whatever they want is the worst thing in the world you can do for your fighting children, for your difficult children. So many parents tell me, so just let them do whatever they want. I don't know how to deal with them. So you tell me I can't fight with them. Just let them do whatever they want. And we're not saying that, but you have to learn a different way. We're here to teach you this different way. The way you're used to, the other way, doesn't work with these children. So we have to learn a different way. We want them also to be able to have the one good midah of being disciplined. Now we're going to approach it from a side. We'll study it step by step, and let me go into the steps with you. So now we're talking, that's the first introduction to what we're speaking about. We're speaking about the fighting child who defies me, who talks back to me, who doesn't listen to me right away, and they can fight me passively. I have to say something 7 times until they listen. It's like pulling teeth. They do whatever they want, and they don't care. These are the fighting children. The more assertive I am, the more I push my authority, the more difficult they get. They are allergic. So we have to help these children to become disciplined as well. How do we do it? That's what we're studying. You're the second person to ask me what ages are we talking about tonight. From the age of 5 to the age of 15 approximately. We're not talking about teens, basically, and we're not talking about very little children. So, first of all, let's study chutzpah. This chutzpah, this attitude, be'ikves de meshicha chutzpah yaske. It's all over the place. All over the place. It's the likes we've never seen. Children calling their parents by their first names. Children hitting the parents. Children throwing things at parents. Parents afraid of children, basically. I've seen it. Mamish, and there are children that can get stronger than parents physically. And then what do the parents do? Especially mothers. And it's a big problem. Kicking, punching, hitting. Yes. What about this chutzpah? What do we do with it? Number one, we have to know that Rav Eliyahu Lopian, I heard this from the great Mechanech Rav Moshe Turks, that's our Talmud of the Chazon Ish, who just passed away. He just passed away, I think, a week ago. And this unbelievable Mechanech Talmud of the Chazon Ish, who was close to 100 years old, said in the name of Rav Eliyahu Lopian that chutzpah in the times of Mashiach is a blessing. That's our times, the times of Mashiach. And chutzpah is a blessing. Why? Because there are so many temptations and challenges out there that if a person doesn't have chutzpah, he won't stand up and do something to not fall in. So chutzpah is a blessing, not a curse. I know you just love this blessing. You wish you're really enjoying it in your home. What blessing it brings you makes your life miserable, this blessing. But hear us out, please. Chutzpah is a blessing, a blessing, a blessing. Rabbi Steinman, a 15-year-old told me, he was on the bus in Eretz Yisrael, and someone sat next to him, non-religious person, started playing with him and his private parts. Now this boy today is off the derech. But he told me that he was too shocked, like too scared to do anything. So he let this person abuse him while he's sitting and doing nothing. On the other hand, a mother told me that her 7-year-old, very feisty, a real fighter, difficult child, somebody tried doing something to him when he was 7. He tried picking him up, a pedophile. And it was in I don't know what this boy was doing, but it was in a downstairs near a shul where nobody was there. And this pedophile started picking him up, not a religious fellow, but a pedophile. And the boy started scratching him and scratching his eyes and punching him and kicking him. And the guy had to let him go for a minute and he ran away. So here we are, Rabbi Steinman. This kid had chutzpah, not afraid. And the other kid was shameful, bashful, shy. And what happened to him? And that's regarding predators. What about regarding the own things you're faced with? There are people that you'll be faced with inappropriate material if you travel in public transportation and people are using their phones next to you. And you're seeing inappropriate stuff. You can see somebody watching a movie on his iPhone right in front of you. What are you supposed? You're on a plane. On a plane going and people next to you all over the place are watching movies, and some of inappropriate stuff is on the movies. You need chutzpah to look away. You need chutzpah to not succumb. You need chutzpah today, or else you can't walk anywhere. You can't do anything without falling. How necessary, how critical it is to have chutzpah. Why am I telling you this? You don't want the kids to use it for you. You want them to channel it. I'm telling it to you because when you see it, don't get upset at it. Don't be angry at it. Don't try to uproot it. We're here to channel it, not to get rid of it. What's the difference? The difference is we don't get upset. When we see chutzpah, how could it be? My parents would never talk to me like that. I could never get away with that. I would be on the floor. My father would be after me with a belt. My mother with a cane. This one with this. So you get upset, you get angry, and the whole day long you're walking around. How can this be? I can't believe it. Mother tells me, her son told her, he called her a name, Dude. Mother was like, almost fell to the floor. Dude. He called me Dude, a special, special mother, yes. And then he said something to her, some other comment, Ma, I think you have learning disabilities. So the mother was like, but she remained composed. She's in touch with me. And Baruch Hashem, she answered him back. And it was a very good answer, and I was very pleased. But the first thing we're looking for you to do is to realize why the chutzpah is here. Hashem put it here. And he put it in your children, and don't get nervous about it. Don't get upset about it. Don't get broken from it. That's the first thing to know. That's it. Now, the next thing to think. How are we going to deal with our children with this chutzpah? Are we going to push the authority no matter what? It doesn't work. If it doesn't work, you see, now the first thing, why is the first thing so critical here? To not get upset. Because if we get upset and we get all irrational, we can't use our seichel. We can't use our heads, and we'll just do what comes naturally. And what comes naturally is not going to be what's effective. Naturally and effectively are not necessarily the same thing. And the famous educator, Rabbi Steinman, once told me, when I spoke to him about speaking for parents, he speaks to parents all around the world. He just came out with a book in English, but he is the king of chinuch and eretz. So about 30 years ago, he came out with the issue of kids at risk. He discovered it. In any case, he told me he once spoke to Rabbi Steinman, and he said, how do I know what I'm saying is right? I speak to parents all over, and Rabbi Steinman, Zatzal, told him, makes no difference if what you're saying is right or not. The main thing is that you're getting parents to think, and that's most of the answer. Rabbi say, if we can think, if we can think before we mechanech the chutzpah and the difficult child, that's most of the answer. So that's why the first piece is so critical here, and that's realize this is not only the norm, it's a blessing. Don't get heartbroken from it. Your child needs it. Just he doesn't need to use it against you. He needs it. Now, the next piece is, we know that. So now we're going to continue using the old ways, the ways we use with the other children, the ways we've used in previous generations. Are we just going to push the values no matter what? You have to listen to me. Zero tolerance for chutzpah. You will not get away with this. You tell me I have learning disabilities, so you're going into your room for a week and only having bread and water. And of course, you go to school, then you come home, into your room, bread and water, until you come groveling to me on your feet, begging for mercy. Then I'll think about maybe reducing your sentence. No. You know from experience that it doesn't work. We're here to help you find tools that work. Rabbi say, tools that work with these difficult children, that help them to become disciplined. Now, the next piece is you have to know that the only way to help them become discipline them is if they become disciplined. As we said earlier, but I don't know if you realize what we're saying here. What we're saying here is that to help them become disciplined, they have to accept your discipline. So it has to be done in a way that they accept the discipline. Any attempt to discipline a difficult child has to be done in a way the child accepts my discipline. If he doesn't, it's not going to work. In order to do that, I'm going to have to learn not to be stronger, but to be smarter. The techniques we'll be teaching you, Be'ezus Hashem, in the coming classes. This is the overview. We are now starting a 5-part series. If you want to register for it, you can. In the same place you registered for this free webinar. But we're starting an overview, and we're teaching you, this is being recorded, we're teaching you the different ways that work with these children to get them to accept your discipline and become disciplined, and they are counterintuitive. They are ways that will teach you not to be stronger than your fighting child. They will teach you to be smarter than your fighting child. We say, don't be a martyr, be smarter. Rabbi Steinman, do you understand? Until now, and in what was used in all the generations until now, was the authority, and push your authority more and more and more, and if they don't accept it, more, and punish more, and threaten more, and scream louder, and consequence more, and hit more. And we've heard even cases where parents are locking a 17-year-old girl out of the house. And you don't come home on time, you can't get in, and the girl's trying to climb into the house and get into the house. Or you'll do all kinds of other things to show the child, kick them out of the house. Don't let them, all kinds of things we've heard, all kinds of consequences. What are you fighting with a fighting child? It gets you nowhere. So what, you're sacrificing the child because of your rules? We heard from one mother. We didn't hear from that mother. We heard from a different mother. It told us about this mother. And she said, since I've cracked down, I feel much better. So what happened to your 17-year-old? Well, I kicked him out of the house, but I feel much better. So is that called effective? You're feeling better, but it didn't work. A mother came to me. She was so happy. She was in a good mood that her 17-year-old had an iPhone. She just couldn't take it anymore. She just got up one day and she smashed it. And she felt better. She told me she felt better. And I understood her. I understood the pressure, but the boy is off the derech. Shem Yerachim. And this didn't help him too much. It just pushed him in the direction he was going. Being stronger, the first thing you have to know after we tell you to calm down and not get upset and use your head. If you're using your head, you have to use your head to be smarter, not stronger. The way to get your difficult child to become disciplined is if you'll be smarter, not stronger. Now, there's something else we have to know in order to make it easier for us. That other thing that we have to know is that Rabbi Steinman made a shocking statement. Shocking statement. Rabbi Steinman said many times, and I heard this from him myself, I actually went to him once, I'm going to give you something. We are not teaching this, but maybe I won't say it, not to mislead you. But I went to Rabbi Steinman with a case, and I gave him one application of how to be smarter instead of stronger. I spoke over this technique with him, which we will be teaching in our coming webinar. This is only the overview. So I said it to him, and he screamed at me. He loved it. and he screamed at me, and he said, Ich hab schon gesagt, as nida azazach vi chutzpah. I already said there's no such thing as chutzpah. I already said that. Rabbi Steinman held there's no such thing as chutzpah today. Now this is a cryptic thing to say. It's like l'chayra, it's contradicting what we see. What does Rav Steinman say when a kid calls his mother a dude? Or he tells her she has learning disabilities? Or a 4-year-old child will take a plate of cholent, hot steaming cholent, and shove it in his mouth, in his father's face. Or kids that are kicking their mothers, and the mother's telling me it hurts. They don't know what to do. Boys who are 12 and 13, and we won't go into all and a boy that tells his mother, 7-year-old, you didn't make me supper, you don't deserve to be called a mother. So he starts calling her by her first name. What is this? This is not chutzpah? What is this? How do we call it? A mother just told me recently that her daughter took her and grabbed her cheeks and held her face. A 14-year-old girl held the mother's face and like, what is that? That's derech eretz. What in the world is Rav Steinman saying? What in the world is Rav Steinman saying? So Rav Steinman is saying, somebody asked me, what happens if you use any of these techniques on non-fighting children? I'm not convinced for sure that any of my children are fighting children. So if you are in the last webinar, we said that you have to experiment with your children. We gave you a host of techniques to use for being assertive, and we said you have to experiment with your children and be assertive for a week or two and see if the techniques work. Then you know that they are not fighting children, and you have to really follow through. If you don't know, then you keep being assertive until you do know. Okay, back to where we're holding. So Rabbi Steinman, again, I'm getting questions from many of the people online. They don't know if their children are fighting children or not. Again, I tell you, if you don't know, then simply experiment. Be assertive, and be assertive for a week. And try to be assertive as much as you can. What does it mean to be assertive? I'll tell you very quickly. We spoke about it in the last webinar. Be calm, be confident, and be consistent. Follow through. Being assertive means you be there, and you see it through, you follow through, and you want to see ad hasaf. Now, if it works some of the time, if it works most of the time, then you'll know that this child is someone who accepts assertiveness. Most of the time is what determines the child. You have to do it, and you have to follow through, and you have to follow through for more than one time and more than just one day. It has to be for a good week at least. If you see these are children that tell you, no, I don't want, no, I will not, no, and they do what they want and they fight you, these are fighting children. You can see them at the age of 2 and 3 already. Just that at that age you can overpower them. But we're talking at the age of 5 and 6 and 7. You can see already what kind of children they are. I'm going further. So Rabbi Steinman, we're teaching you, once you've determined what kind of child you are, once you determine that, so now you have to go further and be smarter with your fighting child. Now we're in the middle of telling you Rav Steinman. He says there's no such thing as chutzpah. What in the world is he talking about? And the answer is, as funny as it sounds, the children are only acting with chutzpah. That's not what they really want. They really want to please you. Every child alive today wants to please you and find favor in your eyes. They want to be good. Steinman told me that. It wasn't necessarily the case maybe years ago. Maybe years ago chutzpah was chutzpah, but today every child wants to be good. Every child wants to please you. Every child wants to find favor in your eyes. You should know the difficult children, the fighting children, the ones that are defying you. If you don't get along with them, they are not happy. They have no self-confidence. They are broken. They are miserable. Kids that go off the derech, by the way, are miserable. Very miserable. Kids that are fighting with their parents are miserable. They have absolutely no self-confidence, because a child gets his self-confidence from his parents' approval. It's very, very not apparent. But that's the truth. We dealt with children. I'll give you an example. A 15-year-old bulldozer child. This child was so full of himself that he would steamroll the parents, especially the mother. And she would fight with him and fight with him and fight with him. We took the child to a therapist, and the therapist said this child has zero self-esteem, not an ounce of self-esteem. We couldn't believe our eyes. This was a fighter, a bulldozer, a powerhouse. An independent child would do what he wanted and would tell his father and especially his mother, no, and he would do what he wanted, went outside, and he had zero self-confidence. It's so clear, because him and his mother did not get along. And the fact that they were fighting the whole time gave the child zero self-confidence. Please understand, if we know this, it'll make it easier for us to work with our fighting children. That's the next piece. Aside from having to learn how to be smarter, we have to know what's really going on in our child's hearts. They want to be close to us. They want to find favor by us. They have their struggles because of the chutzpah and because of the personality and because of, please forgive me, I can't take a lot of the questions right now. I have to go through the material so that we can complete it. But you can join us for the webinar coming up. This is only the overview. We have another 5 parts, and we do have breakout sessions. We have coaches. There are questions and answers. I believe the first 50 that register for the webinar will have a question and answer session with me for free. So check it out. Check it out. I can't get to all the questions now. It's just not possible. There are too many people on the line. So, Rabbi Steinman, if we know that our children really want to find favor in our eyes, if we know that without finding favor in our eyes, they have zero self-confidence, that's what they really want, it could make it easier for us. Because many of us are threatened by our children. We are threatened by the fact we think they're controlling us. We think they just do whatever they want and they don't care, and we get hurt from their opposition and defiance. And if we know that there is no chutzpah, if we understand who they really, really are, then we can help them and we can bring out that good part of them, which is the real them. Everything you see is not really them. They're acting with chutzpah. They're acting defiant. They're acting oppositional. It's not really them. It's not the way they want to be. That is such an enlightening piece of information for us, which can be so helpful for us. We don't have to get hurt at all. No hurt at all, Rabbi say. So now we know that the chutzpah is a blessing. We don't have to get upset or thrown by it. We know that we have to be smarter, not stronger than our fighting children. We know that they really, really want to please us. That's who they really are, and all we have to do is bring that out. And we know that if we're going to keep fighting with them just to be stronger with them and not to be smarter than them, then not only will we not get anywhere, they will not get anywhere. So understand, if you're going into a business and you're making a business prep, you're deciding how to make a business deal. You will never enter a business deal, which is what they call in the secular world lose-lose. You will at least try for a win. You will always try that you should win. If the other part loses, that's another question. The optimum business deal is win-win. When I win, and the other person I'm doing the deal with wins, and we both win. That's the best type of business venture to pursue. Do you imagine anybody pursuing a lose-lose? Nobody in their right mind would pursue lose-lose. But this is what fighting with your fighting children is. Lose-lose. That's all it is. We lose because it doesn't work. And they lose because they lose every ounce of self-confidence they have, and they wind up living a miserable existence. And they can't be matzliach in life. They're set up for failures. How can anybody be matzliach in life when they feel that they're nothing? And if they don't get along with us, they'll feel that they're nothing. So it's a lose-lose. Rabbi say, let's stop it. Let's learn different ways. Let's become smarter. Let's bring out the good in our children. I will tell you, these fighting children can be your most powerful allies. We've seen parents that have changed the techniques, and the fighting children are the ones. A mother told me only 2 weeks she was working on stopping to fight with her fighting 7-year-old girl. And the girl, she was cooking in the kitchen on Thursday, it was hot. And the girl said, "Mommy, can I get you the fan?" And she brought the fan in to start cooling for her mother. Understand, these children that are full of the energy, they can be their parents' biggest allies. I know a mother that was fighting with her daughter for I don't know how long, and she learned other methods and she became close with her daughter. Her daughter now goes shopping with her for Shabbos. The girl is over 17, but she goes shopping with her for Shabbos, and she will not let her mother carry the groceries. She wants to make sure that she's very, very close with her mother. I know other cases where a girl and her mother, they didn't get along, they were fighting. The girl didn't talk to her mother for almost a month, but the mother changed her technique, and they became very close. The girl always tells the mother how much she misses her when she goes away and how much she loves her and she's so close to her, and so on. Rabbi say, these can be your biggest allies if you play your cards right. What is the main theme, the main foundation that all our techniques are based upon? Let me just take quickly some questions from the chat just for a moment. Does this mean a fighting child is only happy if not acting out being difficult? It means the more they act out and difficult they are, the less happy they are, of course. That's what it means, yes. They're not happy when they act out. Even if they get their way through the acting out and they had to do a fight, even a winner is a loser in a fight. Is a fighting child always born a fighting child? Will they develop into them? They can develop into fighting children. They didn't always have to start out like that. Usually it's a personality and a nature. So if all your kids are fighting kids, you ask me, then the other one probably you don't need, but it was really good if you can get the recording. Okay, fine. In any case, that was regarding the previous webinar. So there we go. Rabbi say, let's go further. So now, what is the foundation that all our methods are based on? The methods we use, we call them .com/MD. .com, you ask me what to do with a child who bothers everyone. It doesn't mean that he's a fighting child. A child that acts out doesn't mean that he's a fighter. A fighter means when you discipline him, how does he respond to your discipline? The fighters are allergic to discipline. When you try to overpower them, they fight back, and you have to fight to overpower them even more. And then they fight back even more, and the discipline doesn't work. Those are the fighters where your assertiveness and authority doesn't work. And therefore, we don't know how to discipline them. in a way that will work. Those are the children we are talking about here. So now, what is the one thread? And you forgive me if I don't get to the questions now anymore. We must go further. The one foundation that all the .com MD methods, that's what we call them, .com/MD, those are about anywhere between 20 and 30 different techniques that can help you deal with your fighting child, to get them to accept your discipline and to help them to become disciplined. But they're all based on one principle. This is the principle. Here's a mashal to help you hear it better. A patient comes to a doctor, and the doctor says to him, okay, you need to take penicillin. And the patient says, doctor, I'm allergic to the penicillin. So the doctor says, I don't care what you say. I'm the doctor and you are the patient. Don't tell me what to do and don't tell me what you're going to do. You better listen to me or else. Do you understand? I'm the doctor and you are the patient. Don't you dare. Now, you think this is a joke. Nobody would do that. I was in a hospital where I saw a patient and a doctor have a fight. The doctor wanted the patient's wife to leave the room. It was a recovery room after surgery. And the wife wouldn't leave. The patient was screaming. The doctor says, I'm the doctor around here. They were fighting. It was hilarious. The patient started calling the doctor names. The doctor said, he started flexing his muscles and he called the police. The police I was in that room when a close relative of mine had just undergone surgery. I could not believe in my mind this was happening. The policeman came and he was a little bit bigger than the doctor, meaning he was a little bit smarter, and he calmed the patient down and said, hey, tell me what happened. It's okay, don't worry. That's what the doctor should have done. The doctor was too taken up with his authority. It was mind-boggling. I saw this with my own eyes. Do these techniques work with a child who has ADHD? Yes, they do. Be'ezus Hashem. So, the idea here is, if a doctor starts fighting with a patient because the patient tells him he's allergic, then the doctor he has it all wrong. It's not him against the patient. It's not that he's the authority and the patient has to listen. They're working together. You are working together with your child. You're working together to help your child become disciplined. If you're working together to help your child become disciplined, you will use methods that work for the child. I'm going to give you one example of .com MD. There are many different methods. Let me go through the initials and what they stand for so you get a glimpse of what we're talking about. I'm afraid, I said before I was afraid, I'll give you one method which Steinman loved, but I don't want it to be misconstrued. But let me go through first the initials. .com MD. C means control. It means you give your child a feeling of control, not that you put them in control. A mother told us about her 8-year-old girl who told her before she left for school, Mom, when I come home, I want the living room clean, I want my lunch ready, and I want the air conditioning on. Is that clear? She didn't say, is that clear? I added it on. But so with these kind of kids, we're going to give them a feeling of control. We're not going to give them control. We'll be smarter than them. We'll give them the feeling of control so that we can gain control. C is control. O is on their side. We let them know we're on their side. They come first, and being mechanech them comes second. That's something which bears a lot of explanation. But it's something that wins them over and gains their trust. And once we gain their trust, they are dedicated to us. That's the O. M is motivating children. These children, if we come to them with right and wrong, it won't work. Because they care more about doing what they want than they care about right and wrong. So we'll give you 7 categories of what we call positivizing to help you motivate them. I'm going to explain the example of what I said. I didn't give you the example yet. Bear with me. So M is motivating. The next M is making it easier for them to listen, because if it's easier, then they'll defy us less. And D, the final method, is discussion. And there's a lot to do about that. I'll give you an example. A child comes to her. Here's a case of an air conditioner. A mother, 11-year-old girl, was sitting next to her father at the Shabbos table. This is an actual case. And I'll conclude with this. You get an idea of what we're going to be teaching you, B'siyata D'Shmaya. If you want to join us for the next 5 parts, you can. The first 50 people that join get a free question and answer session with Rabbi Brezak. That's me. And afterwards, I think you can get a discount as well. So it's up to you. An 11-year-old girl was sitting next to her father in the living room, and all the kids were sitting next to the mother near the air conditioner. It was at the Shabbos table. But for some reason, the father wasn't sitting close to the air conditioner, and the girl was sitting next to her father. And the girl and the mother are not the best friends. Not the best of friends. And so the father didn't feel well. I have to move over to the air conditioner. He moves to the other side, and the girl's left away from the air conditioner. So how do you join? You contact info@chinuch-lifelines.org. info@chinuch-lifelines.org. That's how you join. So the girl said, I'm also moving next to the air conditioner. 11-year-old girl. And the mother said, no, you're not. There's no room over here. Well, I'm also hot. I'm sorry, you chose to sit over there. You're going to have to sit over there. There's no room. There wasn't room. It was packed. All the kids were sitting near the air conditioner. So this girl starts telling the mother what she thinks of her. You are this. And she didn't use any curse words, Baruch Hashem, but she didn't say nice words. You're a menuvelet, a mishuketzet. In Hebrew, you say it, you're disgusting, you're obnoxious, she probably used the IDIOT word, and all kinds of wonderful words. So what does the mother do? They just start fighting with each other, fighting. The mother came to me, and I said, use some of the .com MD methods. Change your approach. Start working together. Instead of you against the girl, you and the girl. Don't do a lose-lose anymore. Do a win-win. We're working together to help you accept the discipline and become disciplined. Please note, working together doesn't mean to drop your discipline. It means to go about it in a way the child accepts the discipline. I'll give you one more example, but let me tell you what happened here. We told this to the mother, become the girl's friend, become close, and be on her side, the O of the .com MD. 5 weeks later, the mother came. Now, when you hear this, many of you will say, okay, no more discipline. That's it. It's the end to discipline. We're not saying that. No, we are not saying that. We're saying to discipline in a way they accept it. And if you become close with them and you gain their trust, they accept your discipline. So it happened 5 weeks later. The same thing. Father didn't feel well, was close to the air conditioner, and this time the mother said to the girl, listen to this. The mother said to the girl, instead of saying, the girl said, I want to move to the air conditioner. The mother didn't wait for her to say it. The mother said, would you like me to change seats with you so that you can sit next to the air conditioner too? And the girl said, no, mommy, I want you to sit next to the air conditioner. Can you hear this? 5 weeks later, that's all it took. Turned a fighter into your biggest ally. And that's an example of the O method, being on their side. There's a C method, giving them control. I had a 7-year-old boy that would not my boy, a parent came to me, ADHD, all the stuff you want. Not all the stuff, but ADHD and very strongly, and probably ODD and all the other, whatever. So the parents could not get him to come in at night from playing, no matter what they did. And I used this C method, giving him a feeling of control. I went over to him and said, tell me, You tell me how we can get you to come in at night. You know what he said? He gave me a whole long list. First, you have to call me. And I'm telling you right now, I'm not going to listen to you. You have to call me again. I'm not going to listen again. And then you have to punish me. And punishments don't work with me. This is the punishment you have to use. To me, that works. And the parents followed exactly what he said, and it worked. Because he felt he was in control. Not we were in control of him. And then he accepted the discipline. That's our goal, Rabbi say. Be smart. Learn smart methods. Join us, Bez Hashem, for our 5-part series coming up now. And you will learn how to get your fighting child to accept the discipline and become disciplined, Be'ezus Hashem. Thank you for joining us today.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.